One thing that came through in the big old bag of mail was a question about, Heisman long shots. And I said, I appreciate your question, but I think this is a topic that deserves a little bit more than just talking about long shots. It deserves the opportunity to sort of set the pieces in motion, because whether we love it or not, it is a Heisman race. It is very much like something out of politics, where you've got your different contenders, and all of a sudden you can surge up in popularity and then fall back. And that's because ultimately it is a popularity contest with several hundred voters, of varying levels of interest and involvement in college football.
So they're
So
getting better at that involvement and interest part.
getting their attention, holding their attention, all of these things are
And some
just
churn.
very much soft factors
Yes.
that we have in terms of determining the Heisman Trophy. But at the beginning of the season, it's a great chance to sort of see who the stars are going to be in the sport. One thing that I mentioned, I believe, earlier in the offseason, last year, you had to go all the way down to Travis Hunter at 65-1 to find a non-quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That most of the top 30 names on the list were all quarterbacks, and sometimes two schools had multiple quarterbacks. That's not the case this year. Thank you to Jeremiah Smith. Thank you to Jeremiah Love. Thank you to Ryan Williams. We do have some non-quarterbacks that are up at the top of the board. And let's start right there at the top of the board, thanks to our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more. If you're watching on youtube.com/cover3, you see it is Arch Manning at 7-1, followed closely by Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik. Then we take a little bit of a drop to Jeremiah Smith at 13-1, Drew Aller at 14, Julian Sayin at 15, DJ Lagway at 18, then John Mateer and Lenore Sellers at 19, Dante Moore at 20-1. So very quickly there at the very top, as we're looking at everybody 20-1 or shorter. And for those, we're going to get to it in a little bit. Then we get a huge drop to 33. Like, this is the top tier, and there are even tiers within this top tier. What stands out to you first glance at those names at the top of the board?
That the favorite has never been a full-time starter. That the Julian Sayin is in the top 10. He's never been a full-time starter. Dante Moore was a full-time starter for half a season at UCLA before he got benched. That's just, I think it goes to show you that there really isn't a consensus guy. Like, Arch Manning is getting it because of the name right now and because of what we
100%.
think he will be. But my question for you is, we're looking at that top 10. What would you set the odds at that not a single name on that top 10 wins the Heisman Trophy? Like, if I gave you those 10 or the field, who would you take?
This year,
Yeah.
I think I might take those 10. So here's the way that I approach this. When Caleb Williams won it, he was not the favorite, but he was in this range on this list.
Correct.
When Jaden Daniels won it, he was not the favorite, but he was in this range. He was on this list. Travis Hunter, as I mentioned, was not. But I do think that while, like, Joe Burrow came from way far off the board,
Lamar Jackson came from way far
Lamar
off the
Jackson
board.
came from way far off the board. I think that in very, very recent overreactions, we have seen some of the names, maybe not the favorite, to your point. Arch Manning at 7-1 straight up is a bad bet.
Yes.
Like, that's just not a wager that I would recommend to anybody. There are low yield savings accounts I can point you to that would be a better use of your $100 than Arch Manning at 7-1. But I think you've got some other ones that could really hit and different paths to victory, where you don't need to be a national champion or a national championship contender to still win the Heisman Trophy. What would you say? Would you go field?
I mean, it depends on the odds, but I look at that list and I'm just saying, like, Jeremiah Smith is a wide receiver. I know Devontae Smith won it, but he's a wide receiver on Ohio State. So, like, odds are he won't have ridiculous kind of numbers. And he's also going to have to compete with the quarterback, who's also in that top 10. And we see how that usually goes. So I think it's going to be difficult for Jeremiah Smith to win, particularly at those numbers. Arch Manning, we've never seen. John Mateer is not going to win the Heisman Trophy. I'm sorry. If you take 1,900 on John Mateer, you would just send me the $100. I'll at least maybe send you 5 back.
Is your tip jar still open on
My
Twitter?
tip jar is still open on X. So just send me the $100. You have the same amount of chance to get money back from me. Lenore Sellers, I very much doubt he can win the Heisman because I just don't think South Carolina is going to be good enough for a South Carolina quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy. Dante Moore, you look at Oregon's offense, he probably could put up numbers to win it. So I look at that top 10, and I feel like Arch, Garrett, Klubnik, and maybe Lagway, if he turns out to be everything that everybody thought he was coming out of high school, are the only realistic names, I think, on that list to win the trophy. I think I would lean towards the field.
Okay. I will I will say that the intrigue of Moore is worth tracking, worth trying to see, it worth considering when you're trying to look at the top of the list. I'm with you on Lagway. Like, if he's healthy, then yes. DJ Lagway can be the best player in America. So 100% there. John Mateer is very funny, but
there's no way.
I love you jumping on the other side of that right now. There's a Drew Aller path.
No, there isn't.
You don't?
I don't believe in Drew Aller. I'm sorry.
Okay.
When we get to long shots, Drew Aller will come up again.
Because the Heisman Trophy isn't a stiff arm, it's a handoff to a running back in the backfield.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
In the big games, it has been.
Fair. All right. With the within that middle tier, who do you like the best? Is it Lagway?
Yeah, of the guys on that top 10, I would lean Lagway is probably the best value, although I'm not super confident in it because I do think that Lagway could have a fantastic season and Florida could still be 8-4. And now we've seen Lamar do that. So it's not impossible, but it's just not likely. Typically, history suggests, last year we saw a unicorn and the unicorn won. But you usually have to be, in this modern era, a big-time player on a big-time team who's having a good season. It's going to be hard for guys that are not on playoff teams most years to win the Heisman Trophy, especially now that we're going to be expanding it to 16 teams. So, if you're betting on Lagway, you have to be seriously confident that you think Florida can get to the college football playoff and have an exceptional kind of season. And there is correlation because if that happens, it's probably because DJ Lagway has had an incredible season. So I think of those middle guys on that top 10, that's the one I'm most interested in.
Of the top 3, Arch, Garrett, Cade, if you've got to pick one and punt one.
Cade. I'm picking Cade because Clemson, I think, has the easiest run as far as being in the ACC. They are your favorite to win that conference. Cade is a veteran. Cade will be putting up numbers for them, and he will be getting plenty of attention because he's, the quarterback at Clemson, and we're all familiar with his name. I think Arch Manning would probably be second just because of the name, and that if Arch Manning has a good season, he's going to get plenty of Heisman love from the casual voters and some of the hardcore voters, depending on how good he plays. I think Nuss of those top 3 is the bigger long shot, just because I don't think he has the name value of Manning or the team of Cade.
Everyone loves that rope, though.
I love Nuss. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was drafting one of them right now, I would draft Nuss.
Right. But it's the playing out winning the Heisman Trophy with a reloaded wide receiver room. You need Chris Hilton to stay healthy. You're replacing 2 NFL-bound offensive tackles. There's a lot that goes into the math there on that one. Tom, taking Cade, punting it. We're getting a lot of comments in the tailgate. We'll get to some of those here in a little bit. As you jump to the next tier in the odds board, I'm gonna read out a couple names, and then we'll go with let's pick one, punt one. Okay.
Okay.
Carson Beck, Austin Simmons, Ole Miss quarterback, Sam Levitt, CJ Carr.
Punting Sam Levitt. Nothing personal, Sam. Just your Arizona State. Unless the Big 12 is a random number generator. Sorry. It's going to be hard for you to do it 2 years in a row, but if you do, you'll get credit for it. Give me CJ Carr.
I don't think that's
the Notre
crazy.
Dame quarterback. If he has a good year.
I'm going to punt Carson Beck. I think that I would bite on Sam Levitt, but I don't hate CJ Carr and Austin Simmons. I can be bullish on what Ole Miss's offense can be with Austin Simmons, but Heisman Trophy is a jump that we have not seen from an Ole Miss quarterback in terms of the conversation in a very long time.
It's kind of counter of what happens with Lincoln Riley in that I feel like Lane Kiffin's quarterback success kind of cheapens it when Ole Miss quarterbacks play well because people just kind of attribute it to the offense. You know what I mean? So it's like if Austin Simmons puts up numbers, it's like, okay, well, so did Jackson Dart, so did whoever. So it kind of cheapens it in the eyes of some voters. So yeah, I think he'd have a more difficult time of those four.
Okay. Ryan Williams, Kevin Jennings, Gunnar Stockton, and Ty Simpson. So we're talking about 2 Alabama players.
Get on out of here, Kevin Jennings. He's got no shot. I'm sorry. He's the SMU quarterback, Chip. And look what he did in the playoff last year. He threw 2 pick sixes against Penn State. You know what kind of season he's going to have to overcome that?
Fair.
That
was fast. Fast.
Get him out.
Sorry, Rhett. I mean, I know Rhett's a big fan of the Cover 3 podcast, and he's been hunting down some social media graphics that don't include Kevin Jennings, and trying to take a real issue with him. So it's all right. Come on the show, Rhett. We'll talk about Kevin Jennings.
Again, disclaimer, if I kick you out of this conversation, it's not because I don't think you're good, it's just because I don't think you're going to win the Heisman. It's a very different discussion we're having. Gunnar Stockton, if he has a tremendous year, maybe because he's the Georgia quarterback, but I also feel like the Georgia quarterback never gets credit for Georgia being good. Like if Georgia's great, we're going to talk about its defense. And Gunnar Stockton being a first one in, last one to leave, just a real game managing kind of guy. So I think out of this four, it becomes a Ryan Williams, Ty Simpson battle, which is interesting because one can't do anything without the other. And I think, again, it's going back to what I was saying with Jeremiah Smith. It's very difficult for receivers to win because if receivers have exceptional years, their quarterbacks tend to have exceptional years. So I think Ryan Williams has enough name value. He's on the cover of the video game to get more votes. But I still think Ty Simpson would be the better bet if I'm betting one of those two from the Alabama offense.
And at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more, all 4 of those names, Williams, Jennings, Stockton, and Simpson, are all at 40-1. All right, let's play this with one more group, and then we'll hit a break, take some tailgate questions, and start to get to Tom's list of long shots. This next group, Miller Moss, remember, is at Louisville. Devin Dampier, who is now at Utah. Joey Aguilar, who is now at Tennessee. And then let's throw in Marcel Reed and Fernando Mendoza. Marcel Reed, of course, Texas A&M. Fernando Mendoza, Indiana.
I'm punting them all, bro.
Punt them all.
I'm punting them all. Like Miller Moss, okay, he might have a good year for Louisville. But again, whatever. Jeff Brom, quarterback. Devin Dampier, I absolutely adore, but he's not a Heisman kind of quarterback. He's a fun quarterback that can make crazy things happen for you, and he could help lead Utah to a conference title and the college football playoff, but I don't think that's going to be enough for Devin Dampier to win the Heisman. Joey Aguilar? You think people are going to look at anything Joey Aguilar does in that offense as an upgrade? I don't. And then Marcel Reed, maybe he has a giant kind of season just based on the kind of offense that A&M will run, where he's a true dual threat. He racks up a bunch of touchdowns to get in the conversation. Like Heisman finalist, I can see it. Heisman winner, no. And Fernando Mendoza, I understand it. I get it. But I personally have not reached a place in my life where I can look at Indiana football and just feel like, without a doubt, that they're still going to be good. To me, it's one of those programs where it's like, I need to see it happen for a couple of years in a row before I fully buy in. And I just, no.
This is a portion of the breakdown in the market where I would just blow right past it. Like I would rather have a couple names up here at the top, and then I'd have a couple of names that are a little bit further down. I think I saw a response in the tailgate, just like you. And none of them No, just way too middle of the pie, not enough payout to be able to take a true scratch off ticket on it, but at least, not enough proven to be able to say that they're going to be there.
Yeah, this is the part of the board where instead of taking these guys at these odds, I would rather go further down the board and take the longer shots because I think there are just a lot better value plays down there.
There is one name that is like on fire right now in the tailgate. Curious to see if he ends up making your list of long shots. He's definitely worth
him already.
He's definitely worth discussing.